So today we are going to be discussing the first 6 volumes of Fullmetal Alchemist. So about 3 years ago, I tried to read the series before and I ended up not finishing it, and it wasn't even anything personal. I just wasn't a manga reader yet. I was trying to get into manga. I was trying different series, and I actually think that this is the first series that I tried. But I hadn't gotten my gateway drug yet, which is One Piece, and now everything has changed. So now I'm a big fan of manga. I've finally come back and I'm revisiting this series. It was, like I said, it was like 3 years ago. This was my first foray into manga. I didn't know what I was doing. I remember near nothing about it, so this is, to me, basically like fresh eyes, but just for the sake of full transparency, I did read the beginning once before. So now reading it again, I expected to enjoy it because I like manga now and because I enjoyed it the first time even before I was into manga. But I enjoy it so much more than I was expecting. I thought it was gonna be a casual, fun, good time read. I really like it. This series has really cool, inventive, clever magic, really fun fights to follow, great touches of humor, gut-punching emotions, and a plot that is so tight-knit and well-paced, as well as characters that are easy to fall in love with and hold so much depth. And it is compulsively readable. It's a very streamlined and focused plot, which just makes it so quick to read, but there's so much depth and connection within it that gives me so much to chew on and to discuss. So maybe I should get into it instead of continuing to say vague things. Spoilers for the first 6 volumes. Which, by the way, if you want some spoiler-free thoughts, you should follow my second channel where I do weekly reading vlogs talking spoiler-free about the stuff that I'm reading. And you can also follow there if you like spoilers and you want to continue to watch me read more. I discuss a lot of books there. Anyway, this is a story of Ed and Al, 2 awesome brothers who lost their mom and are desperate to find a way to get her back. That goes terribly wrong, and now trying to restore their bodies in the state that it once was. They're trying to do it through studying and learning more about alchemy, and they're trying to do it through any kind of object that might be able to help them out, like possibly the Philosopher's Stone. But it's also a story where they're not willing to do anything to get these goals. The Philosopher's Stone is an option that they know will almost certainly get them what they want. And when they learn that in order to make a Philosopher's Stone that they have to sacrifice lives, they walk away. Even when they met a doctor who used the stone for good, but he wouldn't share his research with them because of the cost to make one, Ed tells them, "I've already seen hell." But he won't steal that stone because he won't take it away from all the people that are being helped. He's a protagonist who's lost so much and he's trying to restore it, and he has these great ambitions, but he also has a limit. He won't steal from the doctor because it'll take from someone else. So he tries to create his own, but when he realizes that in order to create his own, he has to take from someone else, he walks away. He walks away from all of these opportunities of him being able to meet these goals because he has a line. I love this kind of balance of Ed and Al giving so much of themselves in pursuit of this goal, this ambition. They will spend their lives seeking out the answers and trying to find a solution. They will sacrifice so much of themselves, becoming dogs of the military in order to get what is the most important thing to them, but that they won't take from someone else. They'll sacrifice everything of themselves, but when they have to take from someone else, they'll walk away. Every time. Even when the answer is so close they can taste it, they walk away. I really like that balance in these characters, and as someone who's very used to reading revenge stories, stories of incredible ambition, stories of characters that will do anything, I really like the balance in these characters. Ed and Al, the characters, are amazing protagonists in the plot and in their goals, but as well as in their relationship. I love these two together. Their bond, their friendship, all that they're willing to do for each other. I love their love and devotion for one another. I love their relationship and how much they mean to each other. But I love that there's a real psychological struggle for them as well. Ed holds so much shame and regret for what he's put his his brother through. And he harbors this deeply hidden fear that his brother secretly hates him because of it. And Al, in these first 6 volumes, goes through this spiral after his conversation with Barry, where he wonders how real he is and if Ed created him. There's obviously physical consequences to the things that they've done, and that affects them every day, but there's also real psychological trauma to what they've been through, and that puts a strain on their relationship and a strain on how they view each other. But no matter what they come against physically or psychologically, they come through it on the other side together, stronger, bonded more deeply. And I love seeing that side of their relationship. But that's just talking about the leads. I have many favorite characters in this series. I obviously love Ed and Al, but I also love Winry. I love Ed and Al's teacher and her husband, whose names I don't even know, but I don't need to know because I love them so much. I think Barry is hilarious. I think Armstrong is really funny. I'm not really fully invested yet in the Flame Alchemist and Hawkeye, but I know that a lot of people like them, so I've got my eyes on them. I'm waiting to get to know them better. I love Hughes. Hughes, who is such a good character. He's so kind and sweet and generous with his time, visiting the boys on his lunch break. He loves his family so much. He's just such a genuinely good, kind-hearted, albeit a little bit airheaded character. And the emotional gut punches that come with these characters, I love these characters. They're all very unique, but they're also in such a short amount of time. I'm invested in them and I care about them and I know their distinct personalities and what matters to them. And I get invested so quickly in these characters, and then the gut punches that come with them, it's so cruel to introduce me to such a sweetheart like Hughes and then so quickly take him away from me, and to do it in such a painful way, like having the characters reflect on how good he is, and then you turn the page and you get confirmation of his death, and then you see his daughter mourning and not understanding, like, what are you doing to me? As well as with the teacher, who's so hard and cold and intense, but then we learn why she is so adamant that she can't heal a kitten because she's not God. And it's because she's tried to play that role. She's made the same mistakes as the boys have and come out of it also having lost something, but seeing the pain that she's suffered and the loss that she's experienced. She's such a great leader for these boys. She's such a great teacher for them. She's such a great character. These characters are so good in such a short period of time. The villains are also really interesting as well. I don't feel like I have enough information to talk about the villains at this point in the chapter, but just in the story, but just in the amount that I've gotten from them, a lot of intrigue and mystery that comes with them. Scar, why was he so concerned about keeping the tattoo? Keeping the arm with the tattoos? Why is that a gift from his family? What do you mean? Why did Envy say that the Fullmetal Alchemist is their human sacrifice? We already know that they can make the Philosopher's Stones. They taught the doctor guy how to make his, so they have the information. Why do they specifically want Ed to be their human sacrifice? Is there something about him that should make them a stronger stone? I don't know, but I'm curious. Speaking of the doctor guy, when Lust went after him, why did he say that once the Fullmetal Alchemist, once Ed sees the data and sees the truth, he'll know what they're trying to do? What are they trying to do? Did he just mean they're trying to sacrifice all these prisoners in order to make stone? Is that what he was talking about? Or is there something more there? I don't know. There's a lot of questions I have. There's a lot of intrigue wrapped up in these deadly sins. But also, there's villains like Barry, who are just charming and funny and sweet and just enjoyable to interact with, even if he causes my sweet boy Al to spiral. There's characters that are amazing parallels. There's villains that are amazing, or antagonistic character, bad guys, that are amazing parallels to Ed and Al. Like when we get to see someone doing something very similar to what Ed did, who is completely different from him. Someone who plays with what he shouldn't and is trying to find a way around what's supposed to be untouchable. But the difference is that he's willing to do whatever it takes when Ed isn't. He's willing to sacrifice anything, even life. Ed isn't. He's gone down a dark path, one of evil and destruction, and one who creates things that beg to be killed. Ed is sickened by them, and he's sickened by what he's already done, by his own mistakes. And it kills him that he can't do more to help the people that suffer in this world. I loved this scene because I hated this scene because Nina. But I loved this scene because it's such a great parallel to showing someone who's made very similar choices to Ed, that chose to push the boundaries and break the laws of alchemy, break the rules of the flow, but that had completely different intentions, that have a completely different mindset, and really show a great, very early on, show a great difference between Ed and other people that mess with the rules. Ed made a mistake and he paid his consequences and it was terrible, but he very quickly learned from it, regrets it, and makes a strong line in the sand of things that he won't cross. People, he won't make other people pay the price. And he regrets so much that he took part in Al paying a great price, even though Al was his partner in it. Ed still shoulders all that responsibility on himself. Obviously, I love the entire flashback in Volume 6. I loved seeing them as little kids and seeing them go through the wilderness when their teacher dropped them off on that island, and everything that came after that. Such an incredible, that whole flashback and then everything that followed, the whole thing of them as kids, that was what took me from, I'm really enjoying this, to I'm completely hooked. This series is something pretty incredible. Them as kids on that island trying to survive together and nearly not making it, learning that the world is bigger than them and about the flow and the meaning of alchemy, and learning that lesson, one is all and all is one. Accepting the flow, understanding it, and using it to create, that is what makes an alchemist. But the flow extends beyond the world we know. Death and new life are a part of that harmonious system. They grew so much in that time and learned so much from their teacher. But at the end of the day, they were still kids that were mourning the loss of their mother. And even though their teacher told them that new life and death are a part of the flow, they still sought to disrupt that flow, and they had to pay the cost. And the emotional gut punches of the series, whether it be Nina or Hughes or what the kids went through, are written so well. They pull at me so well. I'm telling you, this whole backstory sequence was incredible to read. And I still have a million questions regarding this entire sequence. I need to know more about the thing, or God, or the world, or whatever you feel like calling it. I'd like to know a lot more about this entity. Why did their teacher say it's almost as if I'm the runes whenever Al asked her about, she's creating the circle, but what about the runes? And that was her response. What do you mean? Al obviously now is able to do that as well. But I still want an answer to that. She also said that Al lost more, so he must be closer to the truth, and so they have to unlock his memories and figure out what he knows that he's forgotten or suppressed or whatever. What do you mean? It does such a good job of having this really streamlined, focused, easy to read, easy to follow plot, while also having tons of little mysteries sprinkled all throughout that make me need to know what you're talking about. And I just love how in this series, it seems like every scene matters. Every scene is intentional. I remember the first time I read through the beginning of the series, thinking that childbirth scene where Winry helps deliver a baby because there's a storm and they can't get a doctor. I remember thinking that felt like such a side tangent, but now reading it, I'm seeing so much intentionality in the series, and really that scene does such a good job of depicting how important new life is to Ed, and how important it is in the flow. And I love seeing those little scenes in Ed to show that he truly understands the meaning of alchemy, and he truly values life so much. And I feel like I could point to pretty much any scene that I've read so far and see how every scene is completely connected back to the main plot, to the core of what alchemy is, and to what the story is doing in the characters and in the plot itself. It feels like such a streamlined, intentional story with no meandering, with no scene that's just there for reasons, but everything connects back to the core of what the story is, which for me, as a themes reader, as a story who loves connectivity in plot and everything feeling intentional and purposeful, I love that. I'm finding that so fun with every scene to be looking at it and thinking, okay, what's the intentionality here? What am I supposed to see here? What's the parallel that comes from these characters, from this scene? And I just, like, that's such a fun way to read for me, but it's also not super in your face. Like, it's very connected and very intentional without being in your face about how intentional it is, which means that you can just read it as a streamlined story and just have a good time, or you can find all the little nuances in it. And I think that that's just really good writing. And it also just makes me really excited, you know, because all the scenes that I don't quite, all the little lines or little scenes that I don't quite see the intentionality behind yet, it makes me really excited to keep reading because I know that there's purpose. And so I'm just excited to find that purpose, and I'm excited to figure out what that means or how that connects to the core of the story. Like, that's fun reading to me. For me, I don't feel like this story is the deepest story I've ever read. I don't think that I think there's plenty of humor in it, but I don't think it's it makes me laugh a lot, but I don't think it's the funniest story. I don't think it's the most hype story or the most emotionally gut-wrenching or thrilling or whatever adjective you want to use. I don't really think that this story is the most anything, but everything it's doing well to me. To me, it's not the most anything, but it's so well-rounded that everything that it's doing is really strong. So I don't think that this is a story that I could point to and say, this is the most. If you're looking for X, come here. It's more like just a well-rounded, holistically strong story that is super easy to read and easy to engage with, but with so many layers. And I really, really like that. So I'm having a great time. I'm only 6 volumes in. Forgive me if I misunderstood something or if I left out a character or scene that's really strong. I'll probably come back around to it when I get more context around it, or I won't, and you could just point it out to me. But please don't spoil me, because I'm really enjoying myself and I'm excited to keep reading. As of the time of recording this, I've taken a break from Fullmetal to record this and edit it and get it up before I keep reading, and I'm reading the second arc of Vinland Saga and discussing it on my Patreon. So if you like Vinland Saga, consider checking that out. We discuss a lot there. And then after I finish that arc, I will be back into Fullmetal Alchemist. And these two series, reading them side by side like this is actually just a wonderful balance for me. It's working out splendidly. But Fullmetal Alchemist, we're also discussing chapter by chapter, scene by scene over on the Patreon. That's linked in the description if you like. We're also watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood over there together as a group. But I'm having an awesome time reading this. I'm enjoying it I expected to enjoy it, but I'm enjoying it far more than I expected. But I would love to continue to discuss it without spoilers for future volumes in the comments if you like. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the second channel, which is also linked in the description. That's also where you can find my reading vlogs if you want to see me week to week chat about this. I'll see you again soon. Bye.